Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 146th episode of Don't Forget the Popcorn. The spooky train rolls, and we're about a week from Halloween, and I couldn't be more excited. Today, we got a request from my boy, Marlon Bellamy, cult horror vampire classic, Fright Night, 1985, directed by Tom Holland. So, guys, grab your popcorn and candy. Like and subscribe for a guy. I appreciate it. Follow me on Letterbox. It's linked below. And let's get into Fright Night. So, Fright Night, I had seen this movie before. And on my first watch, I felt a way about it. And on this watch, I still feel that way, but I feel a little bit more about certain things. But one thing I think this movie does well is show us vampire and vampire lore. But before we get into all that, this movie stars Chris Sarandon as Jerry, our lead vampire. Smooth, handsome, slick guy. Very good vampire adaptation. I think he represents what vampires are supposed to be and how they're supposed to make you feel. Roddy McDowall as Peter Vincent, the vampire hunter, kind of like a Van Helsing type of guy. William Ragsdale is Charlie, our lead, who is the kid trying to stop his vampire neighbor. Amanda Bierce is Amy, his girlfriend, and Stephen Jeffries as Evil Ed. And I thought these characters were very interesting. All these characters had very distinct personalities, and I think these guys are what drives this film. These characters are actually pretty well written and much better written than I realized on my first watch. On this watch, particularly, I was a big fan of the vampire, Jerry, and the vampire hunter, Peter. I thought these guys played their roles very, very well. They kind of give me a pseudo Dracula Van Helsing vibe. And, part of me, this movie is, let's keep it real, it's a fun 80s high school spin on, a Dracula type of story. I mean, let's keep it real. What's this movie about? This movie is about a kid, Charlie, who I believe he's 17. He's a huge fan of vampire shows, particularly the show Fright Night, which is hosted by Peter, our vampire hunter. And he's got a weird fascination with this. Well, a vampire moves in next door to him, and he's really suspicious of him. He sees, them taking the coffin down in the house and all this stuff that rings these alarms in his head. And his clueless mother, who is just completely clueless and terrible. I mean, 80s moms, 80s parents were just the worst, right? I love 80s parents in horror movies because 80s parents in horror movies, they literally are never around. And if they are, they don't give a damn about what their kids are doing or anything. And it's great because this mom is just oblivious to everything. He tries to tell her all this stuff. She don't believe him. She's the worst, really, to be honest. But his neighbor moves in and he's a vampire, all right? And he gets suspicious and, people are going missing and disappearing. So he's scared, but, he thinks he's tough. So he's trying to figure it out and get to the bottom of it. And of course, our vampire figures out that this kid is onto him. And he gets invited in by his mother to his home. And they have a talk, or a fight more so. And basically, our vampire here, Jerry, is like, hey, Charlie, my bad. Charlie, leave me the F alone, and I'll leave you the F alone. Deal? Now, I think this is a good deal. All right, this is me personally. I think this is a good deal because, look, man, I think the main theme of this movie, the main takeaway from this movie is mind your effing business. Mind your business. Okay? Because if Charlie would have left this guy alone, he would have left him and his alone. Okay? Because obviously this vampire, although of course he's not scared of Charlie or anything, he wants his identity concealed. Vampires don't want people to know who they are and know that they're vampires. And If Charlie would have just left this guy alone, I wholeheartedly believe that he would have did the same. And yes, he may be murdering people around, but I don't think he would have murdered him or his because I would raise some alarms. Um, and I think Jerry was fair there. I actually do think Jerry was fair there. And Charlie being a cocky little teenager, he can't leave this alone. And I mean, this opens up a big door for him. But before we get into that, we were talking about the vampire lore. I want to talk about the lore in this movie because I think the lore is very important to this film. And I love the lore in this film. And I like when vampire movies break the lore down in subtle ways. And this movie does that because every vampire movie has their own vampire lore, what they can do, what they can't do. The master ones are typically they can't go into the sun and they need to feed off blood. Those are two things that are, I think, most vampire movies have. Can't go outside in the sun and you need blood to live. Now, other things, now we've seen vampire movies where they can go outside. We've seen them where, you know, if you watch show What We Do in the Shadows, there's a such thing called energy vampires. They don't drink blood. So everyone has their thing. But in this film, being invited in is a big one. Also, crucifix. Crucifix do hurt these guys. And I love that the vampires in this, they kind of have a glamour and they have the seduction. They have the draw-in feature that vampires should have. Vampires are supposed to be seductive. They're supposed to be sexy. They're supposed to draw you in, male or female. It doesn't matter. Vampires are supposed to be very, very drawing and very attractive. And our vampire here is very attractive. And I'm not saying in a sense of looks. I mean, sure, he's a handsome guy, but I mean in a sense of his energy. Vampires have this energy that brings you into them. And so I thought the lore was good in this and fun. And, of course, the classic stake to the heart to kill him. That's also in this. So I did like what we had going on here with lore. Now, I'll tell you right now, you need to mind your business. What happens? Everything that happens wrong with Charlie in this film is a result of him not minding his own business. And now everyone's different. Me, I don't have time to be dealing with evil forces and trying to save the world from vampires. No, sir. So I would leave Jerry alone. I would have never bothered Jerry. Jerry would have never been suspicious of me, even if I knew he was a vampire. I'd try and bring this motherfucker blood cookie so he'll leave me alone. I'd bring him a blood milkshake or something. I'd be like, hey, buddy, ally, please don't mess with me. Okay. But Charlie, I'll give him this. Charlie is tough. He's fearless. But man, he's stupid. Because Charlie, he gets his ass beat by Jerry, getting tossed all over his room, getting beat up. And Jerry shows Charlie who the F he is. He shows him, I am a vampire. I'm not just this handsome dude. Man, I can get gritty. He has all the cool vampire powers. He can teleport, really strong, move fast, all that. So this is not a guy a human's going to be able to compete with. But Charlie decides to go for him anyway. So Charlie recruits, he recruits Peter, and he gets his girlfriend and his boy Evil Ed, who Evil Ed is one of the most animated characters in this film. Evil Ed actually got on my nerves. I thought he was terrible as a character, terrible friend. He sucked. But Evil Ed does shake things up and makes it fun, especially later in the film. And, one thing I like about this movie is it's actually a really simple movie. There's not a lot to it at all. There's not a lot of side story going on. There's not a lot. Everything is, all the meat is right on your plate, right in front of you for you to eat right there. And I mean, the main conflict is simple. Once he figures out this guy's a vampire, it's game on. He just wants to get rid of this guy. See, he doesn't want a blood-sucking beast living next door to him. And I get that. But at the same time, man, this could have cost him everything, and it did cost him some stuff. Uh, but just like in Dracula, they keep messing with this guy. He gets Peter to help him. He gets his friends to help him. And this guy said, "Hey, don't mess with me." Well, he didn't listen. So Jerry starts doing his thing. Jerry starts seducing his girl. And I'm going to tell you, if a vampire wants your girl, a vampire is going to get your girl. Because a vampire has seduction powers you don't have. He has the power to take her away from you. Whether she wants to or not, he's going to go. And let's keep it real. When they first met, they were both feeling each other. She was feeling him too. She was like, well, this is a handsome older man. Because, I mean, obviously, Jerry could be thousands of years old. Who knows how old Jerry actually is? But even take away the vampirism, Jerry's easily supposed to be like 38 or 9. And this girl is supposed to be like 17. So we got like a 20 plus year age gap here. And she didn't care. He didn't care. I found that interesting that they put this in this movie with this large age gap. But you know, it was the 80s. Things were different. They wouldn't have this now in a movie, I don't think. But he steals his girl. He turns his boy into a vampire. Dude, he's ruining your life. He's got your mom under mind control. I mean, all this could have been avoided. He turns Evil Ed, and when Evil Ed turns, things become a problem. Evil Ed becomes a problem. I mean, he sleeps with Amy, dude, turns her into a vampire, and dude, he shows her the time of her life. And it's hard to compete with that, bro. It's hard to compete with that. And I'm like, dude, you opened this all up on your own. All this is a result of your actions, man. Listen, when somebody warns you of something, sometimes you got to take heed to that warning, man. You can't just, now obviously you got to pick and choose your battles. But if this guy and me made a deal, hey, you do you and I'm going to do me, I think I got to respect that. Especially because I don't want to die. I don't feel like getting my neck bit up by a dang vampire. I don't feel like having a vampire kill everyone I love. I don't know. It just doesn't sound like that great of a deal. But Charlie didn't care. Charlie did not care. Charlie had big brass balls, I guess. And, more power to him, I guess. But your girl banged this guy. This guy turns your best friend into a vampire. He almost killed your favorite TV host. Like, he almost ruined your life. And let's keep it real, man. Without Peter, he would have got these guys. They couldn't have did it without him. And Peter saved the day. Peter is the real hero in this movie. Let's keep it real. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Peter was a lifesaver. Because, in my opinion, Charlie sucked, man. Charlie was getting whooped. Charlie was getting his tail whooped all over the place. Dude was making poor decisions the whole movie. And he was just screaming and yelling and acting like a freaking kid, man. And I mean, look, and he was a terrible boyfriend. Let's keep it real. He sucked, man. He didn't even want to break his girl off, bro. And that's why my man Jerry had to do it for him, bro. And then what does this guy do when it's all said and done and we get rid of course, this movie has a happy ending. If you haven't seen this movie, sorry, didn't mean to spoil it. This movie has a happy ending. We killed Jerry. Everything goes back to the normal for the most part, except Ed's still a vampire, I'm pretty sure. But everything goes back to normal. His girl turns back because they got to her in time and all that. And him and his girl stay together, and he finally starts hooking up with her. Oh, it took a whole nother dude to knock your girl off for you to want to hook up with her now? Like, dude, Charlie sucked. I'm sorry, man. That's just my opinion. He was my least favorite character in this whole movie. I was actually rooting for the villain in this movie. I like Jerry the most. Jerry and Peter were the best characters to me. I thought the 3 kids in this movie sucked. They bothered me to my core. But whatever, man. There's a lot to like about this movie. The practical effects in here are absolutely stunning. It's disgusting. It's gross. And I love vampire movies. When vampires start really getting vampire-y, when they start looking old and they get the long hands and fingers and the teeth look all crazy and their skin looks crazy. You get that in here, which is great. You get some cool kills. It's just, I love they made a lot work with this budget and this setting. It's doesn't take place in many locations here. It's mostly in buildings, a couple outside shots, but they make the scope of this seem nice and big. Everything feels lived in, everything feels real. It feels like a classic 80s movie, adventure movie, fun movie where some kids got to solve a problem. And whether it's a horror movie, a straight adventure movie, whatever, that genre is missed and beloved to the day we're all going to die. We're always all going to love 80s kid adventure movies, teenage adventure movies. They're the best, man. They're some of the best. And this movie has that vibe. And I think that's the best part of it. The energy this movie has is great. It's got a pulse. It paces really well. There is a lot to like about this film. I don't think it's a perfect film. You know, it did not make my top vampire movies list. It did make the long list, but it didn't make the final cut. Uh, I just think there are vampire movies better than this, like the one we covered 2 weeks ago, The Lost Boys. That is a much better vampire movie than this. But this is still a good movie. And on this watch, I think I do appreciate this film more than I have on previous watches. Uh, Fright Night, obviously it's loved. It was remade in, I believe, 2011 with Colin Farrell and Anton Yelchin. Rest in peace to Anton Yelchin, great actor. So any movie that gets remade, clearly it had some kind of following. People liked it. This movie, this is, gonna go down as an 80s vampire horror classic. Uh, it's a they don't make them like this anymore movie. You know, I would love to see a nice, fun teen adventure movie like this come out now. And let's not act like they haven't tried. They've tried. I guess just the magic's not there anymore. I think you had to be there, lighting in a bottle type of situation. They've tried, but it's cool. It's cool. So it's nice to have movies like this to go back to and watch and put us back in 1985 when we need to get put back there. I would suggest this movie this Halloween season. If you clicked on this video, I'm sure you've seen it. And if you haven't seen this movie in a while, check it out. Refresh yourself, jog your memory. I did have a good time watching it on this watch. I was yelling at the screen and just being obnoxious, having fun with it. But I will tell you, man, I still think Charlie is one of the dumbest guys ever, man. He he got his world flipped upside down. And this all could have been avoided, man. But we had fun with it. And I'll say the third act of this movie, when we're really trying to hunt down Jerry, it is a great time. It really is. It gets wild and fun, and the heartbeat. It ups the heartbeat. The pulse of it's really great. So I'm going to give Fright Night a 7.7 out of 10. Guys, thank you so much for watching my Fright Night review. Let me know if there is a film or topic you would like me to review. I'm still going to do at least one more spooky video review before the season ends. And I would appreciate it if we kept the spooky requests up, at least for the next couple weeks. Guys, follow me on Letterboxd, Ralph Vader. That's linked below. Like and subscribe for a guy. Help me hit my goal. I appreciate that as well. I got a podcast with my buddy, The Cutting Room Floor. I'll link that below for more movie content, more long format content. I'll be back next week. And don't forget the popcorn.